All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we're diving headfirst into a story that might just turn your childhood memories upside down.
Ooh, sounds intriguing.
We're talking Pocahontas. I bet you think you know her.
Disney, right? Wind, flowing hair, maybe a talking tree or two.
Exactly. But get ready for a reality check because the Pocahontas we're exploring today, well, she's a far cry from the animated princess. We're going beyond the myth. We're going to unearth the real Pocahontas, and for this, we're tapping into the expertise of Dr. Camilla Townsend.
Ah, a leading voice in early Native American history. I'm ready to hear this.
Let's start by setting the record straight.
All right, hit me with it.
Pocahontas, she was a real person.
Oh, I definitely thought so. Born when? Do we know?
Around 1596, and she was part of the Powhatan people.
The Powhatan, now remind me, they were in...
What would become Virginia? But here's where we start to dismantle that Disney facade.
Okay, lay it on me.
Our girl Pocahontas, she wasn't a princess. Not in the European sense, anyway.
No tiara and grand castle.
Nope. Her mother wasn't one of Chief Powhatan's primary wives, so there was no royal bloodline guaranteeing her any power.
Interesting. So already we're seeing a different picture emerge. And speaking of Chief Powhatan, wasn't he the leader of a tribe?
Ah, you've hit upon another oversimplification.
Okay, I'm sensing a pattern here.
The Powhatan weren't just one tribe, they were more like a confederation of tribes.
Yeah.
20 of them, in fact, all united under, well, Chief Powhatan.
20 tribes. Wow, he must have been quite the leader.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking strategic alliances, savvy diplomacy, and yeah, a bit of military might when necessary. This wasn't some simple society. They had systems of government, trade, warfare, the whole nine yards.
It's incredible how often these indigenous societies get reduced to such basic stereotypes.
And hold on, because it gets even more fascinating.
Okay, I'm all ears.
About 200 years before the English showed up, the Powhatans started incorporating agriculture. Corn, beans, thanks to trade routes. So no longer just nomadic hunter-gatherers.
Ah, so that means larger settlements, more complex social structures.
You got it. They were adapting, evolving.
Okay, so we got Pocahontas, no princess, part of this complex Powhatan society. But there's one more figure we can't avoid.
Oh, you mean John Smith?
The one and only. Every good story needs a dashing hero, right?
Well, about that, John Smith was definitely there, one of the early colonists at Jamestown. But he wasn't quite the hero we see on screen.
Really, so less swashbuckling captain, more...
More like middle management, really. And remember that whole dramatic rescue scene?
Oh yeah, where Pocahontas throws herself over him just as he's about to be executed.
Iconic, right?
Yeah, iconic and completely made up.
What?
No way!
It never happened.
But I thought that was like a historical fact.
It's a story Smith started telling years later when he was trying to, shall we say, cash in on his adventures. And get this, he had a habit of telling similar damsel saves me stories from all over the world.
So maybe a bit of a flair for the dramatic, or maybe a savior complex.
Who knows? But what we do know is that rescue, pure fiction.
Okay, so that iconic scene, busted. But Pocahontas and John Smith, they must have had some kind of interaction, right?
Definitely. They spent time together during Smith's captivity, probably even taught each other some language. Smith's notebooks actually back that up. But here's where the story takes a really dark turn.
Okay, I'm sensing this isn't going to be good.
In those same writings later on, Smith admits to touching Pocahontas. And she was most likely like 11 to 13 years old at the time.
He admitted this.
He tries to play it off as, youthful indiscretion. But let's be real, that's molestation.
Yeah, no sugarcoating that. It's sickening. And this whole love story narrative, did Pocahontas ever, I don't know, corroborate any of this?
Actually, the only recorded instance of Pocahontas talking about Smith was years later in London, and she called him a liar, point blank, in front of everyone.
Wow. Talk about shattering the myth. So no love story, no heroic rescue, just a young girl exploited by an older man in a position of power.
Yeah, pretty harsh reality check. And unfortunately, things were about to get even more dangerous for Pocahontas.
Oh no. What happened next?
So that's a story for our next deep dive. Stay tuned. So, last we heard, Pocahontas was married to John Rolfe. But, not exactly a love match, right?
More like a strategic alliance. A way to hopefully bring some peace between the Powhatan and the English.
Makes you think about the choices she had to make. Stuck between two worlds.
Exactly. And that's where this trip to London comes in. 1616.
London. What was that all about?
Well, the Virginia Company paid for it. Pocahontas, Rolfe, their little son, Thomas. Whole trip. Finance.
Sounds like a nice gesture. Little sightseeing.
Not quite. There were like two agendas happening at the same time.
Two. Okay, now I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
The Virginia company, they saw Pocahontas as like a walking advertisement
An advertisement for what?
for the colony. Look how well we're doing. The natives are practically lining up to join us, that sort of thing. Attract investors, new settlers.
So using her as proof that colonization was a smashing success. Pretty twisted.
Totally. Dressed her up in European clothes, emphasized her conversion, the whole civilized savage narrative.
Which, as we know, wasn't exactly the full story.
Nope. But Pocahontas wasn't just a passive participant in all of this.
Oh. She had her own plan.
You could say that.
Yeah.
She and her advisors, they saw this as a fact-finding mission.
Spying on the spies? Kinda.
Exactly. Learn about the English, their intentions, what they were really up to.
Smart. So while they were putting her on display, she was taking notes.
Gathering intel. And she became a celebrity, met the king and queen, went to plays. That famous portrait, that's from this time.
So she was playing the game, too. Using her fame.
Absolutely. She and Rolfe, they even used it to raise money from charities.
Interesting. For the Powhatan, I assume.
Well, there's this letter from Rolfe. Pocahontas insisted the money be thanks for souls already saved.
So no pushing for more conversions, drawing a line, even then.
Holding on to her beliefs. Powerful stuff. But the story takes another turn. A sad one.
What happened?
She got sick in Gravesend as they were about to leave, probably something respiratory, and she died.
Died in England, never made it home.
We saw Virginia again, and Rolfe. He left Thomas in England with his brother. Too many people were sick, couldn't risk it.
So much loss, her life, her homeland, her son. It really hits you, doesn't it? How much was taken from her?
It's a tragedy. And it makes you wonder, what did she think in those final moments, so far from everything she knew?
We only have the English side of the story, right? Her voice, her thoughts, loss.
It's a reminder that history is often told by the victors. And so many stories like hers go unheard.
It makes you wonder how much richer our understanding of the past would be if we could hear those silenced voices. So we spent this deep dive really trying to understand Pocahontas, the woman, not the myth. And it's a complicated story.
It is, and her legacy, even more so. I mean, she's everywhere, right? But it's the wrong image. The Disney version, theme parks, movies. It's almost like she's a mascot.
And that mascot, it kind of glosses over a lot of really harsh realities, right? Colonialism, exploitation.
Exactly. It's offensive
Yeah.
to a lot of Native Americans.
I can see why. It's taking a really difficult history, a painful history, and turning it into something palatable, something marketable.
Yeah, harmful stereotypes, erasing the very real suffering.
So how do we fix this? How do we, I don't know, reclaim her story, tell it right?
Well, first we have to acknowledge the damage, the harm done by those romanticized stories. Listen to indigenous voices.
They're the ones who've been left out of the narrative for so long.
Right, and understand how those distorted portrayals, how they've impacted them. Then we can start to build a more accurate picture, a more respectful one.
It's more than just getting the history right, isn't it? It's about understanding the ongoing impact of colonialism.
Absolutely. Pocahontas' story is part of a much bigger story, the resilience of Native communities, the resistance. That's still happening today.
It's almost like she's a symbol of that, of fighting back, even when the odds are stacked against you.
And it challenges us to rethink how we look at history, to decolonize our thinking, to really question those dominant narratives.
To listen to the voices that haven't been heard, the ones that have been silenced, marginalized. It's about seeing the whole picture, not just the version that's been presented to us.
We've only just scratched the surface here.
Yeah.
There's so much more to learn, so much more to explore.
And that's where you come in, dear listener. What do you think? What resonates with you about Pocahontas' story? How can we make sure her story is told in a way that honors her truth and the experiences of indigenous peoples?
I'll leave you with this thought. What would Pocahontas herself say if she could tell her own story? What would she want us to know, to remember, and most importantly, to do?
It's a powerful question, one worth thinking about as we continue to learn and to grapple with these complex histories. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back soon with another topic to explore. Until then, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep digging deeper.